Okay, I want to take you through the cycle of creating a small program and storing it in GitHub. So let's write an HTML page, and here I'm using ChatGPT, so you can do the same. And I'm saying, write an HTML page that allows a user to create an elastic ball with a web click that has a random velocity and that bounces off the walls of a box and collides with the other balls. Allows sliders to control the time step, gravity, and elasticity of collision. Okay, so I inputted that and it came out with this program. So I'm going to copy it. So you'll see it's got HTML in it, and then it's got a script section that is JavaScript. And you'll see it has a canvas and various other pieces, sliders, gravity slider. Okay, so it's written the program. I don't know whether it works or not, but I'm going to copy the program and I'm going to go to my GitHub and we'll create a repo. So I go to GitHub. Okay, so let me go to my repos and I'm going to create a new repo. So here I am. So you should have your own public GitHub repo. Mine's public and it's free if it's public, so that's the way to go. And I'm going to create a new repo. So let's call it Bouncing Balls. And let's make sure that's okay. Yep, I don't have a one called that. Balls bouncing around a box. Okay, it's public. Add a README and git ignore. I always add node as a git ignore. So if I'm going to create a web server with Express, say, that runs on Node, so that's JavaScript. If I'm running, for example, in code spaces, which is easy to do on GitHub, it means that if I save my code, that it'll ignore the libraries, the node libraries, because they're so large and there's so many of them. Let's do an MIT license. Okay, and then we can create a repo. So here's our repo, git ignore, there's the license and the README. Okay, to code in it, if I hit period, so just on my keyboard I hit dot, it's going to take me to a VS Code editor. So here we are, and this will allow us to save, to program in here, or at least to type and create code in here. It won't run the code, but we can then save it to GitHub. So let me create BouncingBalls.html. Oops. Okay, and just going to paste in that code that we developed in ChatGPT. I'm going to save that back. So there, I'm clicking on this. I'll put a message. This is my first saving of anything, and I'll commit and push it. And now I'm going to get back out of this VS Code and look at this, and you'll see I've got bouncing balls there, and if I click on it, it's got code. Let's see if we can run that code. So what I'm going to do, go back here to Bouncing Balls, go into code, and you'll see code spaces. This allows me to create on a machine a container that will load this code. It'll provision this code into that container in the cloud, and we'll be able to run it. So here we are. I'm creating. So now we've got an editor that's pointing at the machine that's being provisioned in the cloud with my code. So now anything we do here, we're talking to the cloud. And we'll see down here that it's still opening things remotely because we're talking to this remote machine that's sitting at this URL. So they just give a random name to it here. And it's running under GitHub's code spaces, and it's actually running on Azure. Okay, so we've got that, and I'm still waiting for some things to load here. Particularly, I need to have live. Okay, now we're getting things loaded. As you see down here, I'm getting some capabilities here loaded. Okay, here you see something called Go Live that you should have loaded. This is an extension that is loaded into VS Code. If I click on it, it's going to basically run a local server that will show us these files. So here I am now. I'm running this local server. You can see the files. Let's click on this to run it. So here we are. Here's the elastic ball simulation. I'm going to squish it down a little bit so we can see it. Okay, let me click and see if we get a ball. Okay, and we get two, and they hit each other. I don't want any gravity. Let's make it 0 and have another ball here. And we can do a few more. Okay. And elasticity, nearly 1. I can make it 1. So they won't lose any energy. Okay, so that's pretty slick that out of the box, really without knowing much about coding, we've got a fairly sophisticated user interface running here with a few sliders. Okay, so let's go back to our VS Code. So this is, remember, it's running in the cloud. We had this open in the browser and our application was running there. And you can see it's still running. If I click on this, it'll stop that Go Live running. Here we've got a terminal that we can use later to, I'll just do ls to show, here's our bouncing ball code, our license, our README. So they're running in this workspace on this remote machine. Okay, let's now save this back up to, I didn't make any changes, so there's not going to be any changes. Let's have a look though. Let me actually change something here. Elastic ball simulations. Okay, so now I've made a change. I can save it back to GitHub. Okay, so let's have, I'll just say edited code. So now if I save the changes, so you click on here, there's one change, that saves it locally. Now I'm going to commit it back up to GitHub, and I'm going to sync the changes. Okay, we don't need that. But now if I go back to GitHub and take a look in here, we'll see that we have, where is it, simulations. That save was made. So that's how we run a code, edit it, to debug it, for example, and then save it back to GitHub. So now we have our code on GitHub, and that's where we want it. Let's kill code spaces. So go here, stop current code space. Now in here, when we look at, we've actually got now an image saved of what we were running in that container. It's called Silver System. If I click on it, we can run it again. We can rename it, we can do various things. But if you just double click now, we can run again that container. Okay, so that's the cycle of creating code and running it. Okay, bye for now.